Welcome back, MCU fans. I'm joined once again by my good buddy Tim, and we are going to break down some MCU films out of order today. The reason being is we opted to do Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Ant-Man and the Wasp today, so that we can do Infinity War and Endgame in the same one because it kind of makes sense and it's a different way of watching it. And I think that was a good idea that Tim had there. Plus, the runtime of those two is about equal to the runtime of these three. So it just kind of makes sense. And I've got to be honest, I enjoyed this batch of films better than I had the first time around. These three movies I had only seen one time total. So it was actually interesting to do it this route. And I think that was a good recommendation, Tim.
Yeah, no problem.
And we also had a question for the audience this week that got a lot of answers. And I think that it applies in the beginning of this as opposed to the middle because it applies to each of these films as we have the quantum realm, we have Earth, and we have space. Now, the initial question was, what do you prefer? And I believe you had the quantum realm, space, and Earth.
Space and Earth, yeah.
And we opened it up a little bit to just what environment was the best. And we had a lot of responses on this. And I want to take a moment to share those responses because they're pretty thoughtful and very cool.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Wakanda was the top answer.
Wakanda got a lot of love, which means it gets a lot of love from me too. Eric Marshall and Corey Kesseline had Wakanda with Xandar taking the second spot. Both of them had that. Sherry Nutter Timothy answered prior to us changing the question on an edit. And she said she'd say Earth is the least favorite part due to limitations. Space and quantum realm leave room for earthly laws of physics to be left behind, therefore making the fights far more interesting.
That's true.
It is. It's very true. My guy Vince Warren said Nowhere.
Yes, thank you.
I think he may have been the only one to give it some love too.
Yeah.
Mel Bynum, Jovi, and Rosie Altman Larkin all said Wakanda as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ali said Wakanda or the Microverse. He said Wakanda because of the vibrant colors, beautiful set, and overall just visually an amazing setting. The Microverse because there's so much that's unique and different and special. And we get to see things in ways we've never seen before, creates this level of mysticism and wonder. He says it's a toss-up with those two, but he'll revisit the question after Namor is released because his opinion may change. Meaning we might get some Atlantis action, and there you go.
He was hoping.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've been waiting for years. Black Panther 2, if you're listening, I'm in. Corey Banker gave us Asgard. He said he could hang out on the Rainbow Bridge all day with Heimdall, checking out the entire universe, then look back and see Odin's Golden Castle. And you can look at tall grass and a waterfall. So he painted us a picture too. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Chester Renato from Rhino's Comics said Nowhere is hands down amazing. The astral plane hasn't even been touched yet. The realm of Dormammu, Sutar's home looked incredible. Wakanda was nice eye candy. Asgard as well. He said Titan, Microverse, and Planet Hulk, just great stuff. I can't pick one place better than the rest. And to be honest, I mean, we do need to tip our caps to a lot of the world building that we've seen thus far. We really, really do.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeanette, and she brought up Sakaar, because if you remember from Ragnarok, it's actually the center of everything.
Yeah,
and it just has this really weird, futuristic technology, like I don't know, like salvage kind of feel to it.
I think it's the most sci-fi / doomsday type thing we've seen. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it stands out a lot to me.
Yeah.
Also just seeing where Valkyrie pops out. Kind of set the whole setting there, just in this heap of trash. It's always stood out for me. Probably my second favorite after Wakanda, actually. Olivia Summers, who was actually just introduced to for this segment by my buddy JJ. And by the way, JJ, congrats on the engagement.
Congrats.
Yes. She is apparently a huge Marvel fan. And so we are now friends on Facebook so we can talk Marvel. And
Huzzah.
She said, so I love that this show is bringing people together too. How about that?
Yeah.
She said, Wakanda hands down. It's visually stunning and the world building around it is incredible. And her favorite Bucky hung out there. Asgard is a close second. So then JJ popped in and I was actually surprised by his answer, but it's a good one. Loki favorite location scene is in Thor in Norway when Odin's dying and tells Loki and Thor about Hela. The view was
Oh,
gorgeous, and
yeah.
scene was important and understated. And so I rewatched that scene, and he's really right. They did
Yeah.
a lot of beautiful things with that scene. Um,
And then what they did with it in Endgame too.
yeah, it's one that didn't stand out to me until it was pointed out to me, and I think that was a great
Mhm.
observation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Um, my guy Joseph Dilcox from Battle of the Ballads gave us Westview, lots of opportunity to explore all kinds of tropes and settings. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Westview was great, and I hope we're not done with Westview. Um, our guy Dave Bonifant, who we run into quite often at Rhinos, he said
Mhm.
you'd have to
Great
say
guy.
Doctor. Oh, I love Dave. It's between Doctor Strange and Thor as far as location. They were both filmed in great locations and settings. His favorite so far. Gary Baker said any of the cool cosmic space scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy. And
Oh
Gary,
yeah.
for those who don't know, Gary will be joining us on our show in a couple weeks to tell us everything we got wrong in this journey. So that's going to be a fun episode. And Paul Brenner from Joywave, who actually just showed up on the back cover of many comics this week. So shout out to that to our local.
I still want to meet you in person. I've met you guys before, and I want to meet you again. Just never, it's never works out yet.
Yeah, and it's cool to have a local band with on the back of these comic books we're buying. So shout out to those guys for that. And he said it's a tough one. He agrees with everyone. So he's trying to think of one that hasn't been mentioned. That short scene in Far From Home where Peter is rescued by Happy in that multicolored tulip field
Oh yeah.
was visually
Amsterdam.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Best scene of the film in his opinion. Actually, I just watched that film this weekend. Yes,
If you can believe it, that whole field was CGI.
Oh, geez, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
what a job they did on that.
Yeah.
So, folks, thank you so much for the responses on this.
Yeah, that was great.
The dialogue's amazing, and I think there's a lot that we can chat about on the YouTube video as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe. When you like the video, it actually brings it up for other people to see in the YouTube verse. So maybe there could be a dialogue going on with folks who aren't familiar with the show, but we'd love to talk to you about these ideas. So
Yeah, spread the much love.
yes, absolutely. And you'll see hashtag grow together on a lot of videos. That's not a me thing. That's actually something that the great Gary Baker started where we promote other YouTube channels. So if you'd like your YouTube channel promoted, let me know. I'll put it on the bottom of every video and give your channel a shout out just for fun, just to help you grow and get some followers and subscribers. It's just a cool thing he did to kind of bring the community together on YouTube.
That's awesome.
So enough kissing Gary's ass. We're gonna do enough of that when he comes on the show in a couple weeks. Let's get down to business, my man.
Yes, sir.
We are gonna start with Captain Marvel today.
Yeah.
And I have a visitor. Okay. She wants to show.
Oh, that's dope.
Our own Captain Marvel in the house. Thanks, Carol. We're gonna start with Captain Marvel, Tim, and I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this one.
You know, it's there. I didn't want to believe it when everyone was saying that Yanrog was the worst MCU villain, but he is the worst. Even Jude Law couldn't save that character from just being subpar. He just wasn't.
Did it seem like Jude Law didn't want to be there?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was. It had potential. They did a really good job with the equality and the feminine message behind it. That was awesome. I thought it got. I don't want to say pushed too far, but it was like, okay, when they started playing like "I'm Just a Girl" by No Doubt during one of the fight scenes after she got the full extent of her powers. It's like, yeah, I get it, but other than that, it was fantastic. The Skrulls were there. You know how I feel about the Skrulls.
I have to pause for a moment because I'm looking at my notes, and I said the playing of Just a Girl during the climatic fight scene was awesome.
Oh my god!
Given all of the shit that this movie got. Oh, so I said the playing of Just a Girl during the climatic fight scene was awesome, given all the shit that this movie got for having a female lead.
Hi, Zoe.
Hello. So that's pretty awesome that we are completely on opposite spectrums. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool to see, even though it was in the past, it was cool to see Korath again after showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy prior. Minerva was underused. Just overall, the Kree was just disappointing. Um, Overall, it was just a meh movie to me. Still, um, I I probably would have given it like a 4 if you had asked me before, because it's just not engaging. The climax is it just doesn't get there. It doesn't be. It's not really. It doesn't feel like a climax.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it was cool to watch her blow up all those Kree warships, but there wasn't anything that really pulled me in. And don't even get me started on um, Fury and his eye.
Oh, let's get you started. Sounds like you got
Uh,
some animosity
ugh,
there.
all that build up, and it was just because of Goose. Just a bummer. Just a bummer. But I thought the girl who played Maria Rambeau nailed it, and it was cool to see a young Monica,
Mhm.
given what given how she is now, as coming into the world as Photon, and yeah, it was. We're definitely in the realm of the too long movies.
Yeah.
All three of these movies are right around the 2 hour mark, and I feel like all three of them could have been an hour and a half easy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I-
just the scroll stuff wasn't really engaging for me, and but I did like Brie Larson a lot more this time around. It looked like she really had fun with the role, and you can tell she was happy to be there.
You know, I. It's funny you mentioned the length of it. I clocked the scenes I would get rid of, and there was actually 40 minutes I would take out of Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
Um, and I'll get to that when I do my half. It there was just a lot that I remember not liking about the movie, and if you take everything out of it, it's actually a really well done movie with a purpose, as
yeah,
opposed to one that has no climax and that's just dragged on by shitty dialogue.
yeah. Like I felt like the scenes where you finally found out what Talos was after and what his goals were. I When they were meeting in the shed there, I was like, we should be at the climax by now. And and it just took too long to get there. And then yeah, it was cool that she proclaimed that she didn't have anything to prove to the Anrag in the climax, but a little bit more of a fight scene would have been nice. Um, so yeah, it's really all I got on Captain Marvel. So I'm gonna have to give this 6.5.
Wow, much higher than I thought you were heading. Actually,
Yeah, yeah, I liked it. It was just slightly above average for me.
so this was actually your third lowest ranked film thus far,
Yeah,
um, which I think is kind of fitting.
yeah,
Uh, I watched it with a much more open mind than I typically do with these movies because I despised this movie when I first saw it. Uh,
mhm.
I love the Captain Marvel comic book run. I loved Brie Larson prior to this movie. I was really excited. Diamond Hunsu was coming back into it. So I'm like, oh, cool. He's going to be awesome as Karath, coming back. I was really excited
Yeah,
about that because I like him a lot as an actor. He was barely used.
yep.
Um, so I was let down by that.
Shout out to the girl who plays Minerva though for coming back as Cersei in the Eternals.
I know somebody tagged me recently and they're like, couldn't they find other actors? And I'm like, why? This actor is phenomenal.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even known it was her through all the blue makeup.
Oh, yeah. No, she can play any role. I think she's such a badass.
Yeah,
I really liked the soundtrack of this movie. It's a great nod to the decade.
yeah.
I love, even when she's wearing like band t-shirts because that was a thing,
Mhm.
around the times. I thought that was great. I know you didn't really care for the Just a Girl part. I really just liked it, partially because these are the years that I'm doing on Battle of the Ballads. So I'm listening to
Oh
these on
yeah.
regular playlists.
Well, I have to say though, like at least they didn't try and go like full Guardians of the Galaxy with it. And I even heard like Cruella, that just released recently, um, goes overboard with the soundtrack of 70s songs. And so it's good that they threw in a few well-known songs, but
Mhm.
mainly stuck to their original score.
Yeah, I mean, they did a really good job of showing where we were. The blockbuster, for instance, that was great.
Yeah,
Using those parts to build shit to communicate. I was a fan of
yeah, the
that.
radio show.
I really like the interview scene between Fury and Carol, where she's trying to see if he's really a human.
Oh yeah,
I thought that moment was really nice. And to be honest, there were a lot of nice moments that
there
my
were.
my disgust for this movie blocked out after I saw this movie. My initial response when I saw this movie was disappointment. As somebody who's been a big fan of Carol in the comics for many years, a big fan of the Rambos. You remember
Mhm.
how excited I was when we got Monica in
Yeah,
in, WandaVision, and I was just let down because I felt like nothing happened. At first, I thought Brie Larson was awful with her acting in this, and I like her in other projects. But the more I watch it, the writing wasn't there for her.
yeah,
And I I wonder if the same went for Jude Law, but the expressions Jude Law even gave in the movie were more like this was a paycheck for him in between movies.
yeah.
And I think even given his lack of usage in the movie demonstrates that.
Mhm.
So it just wasn't there for me. The plot was awful. I know we had to get the scrawls in. Um, I I don't know. They focused too much on humor at times, and didn't
And it
quite.
didn't hit.
What's that?
It didn't land.
No, it did not. Um, we had multiple enemies coming out of the woodwork throughout it, and many of them were just an afterthought, as
Mhm.
opposed to at the forefront. So I don't know. It took an hour and 10 minutes to get the origin of Captain Marvel,
Yeah,
and though I know that there needs to be a buildup, we probably could have started that origin and cut a lot of the beginning out. It didn't set up much, to be honest. And if it was going to be the Skrulls battling them, then let them do it instead of focusing
right.
on
Yeah.
Carol's whole story as that. I thought that the design of the suit scene was really cheesy when it was like, "Hey, pick the colors" and
Oh yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
I know it's kind of a cute moment, but she's supposed to be this badass, and I just think there are better ways to go about that than focusing on trying to draw on like a certain crowd of viewers. You've already done that.
Mhm.
You've got every spectrum watching this movie. You don't need to cater to anybody. Just make this movie the way it should be made.
Mhm.
So that part kind of bugged me. It's the cheesiness that came about, gushing over, oh, Aunt Carol's back and all this stuff. It's all right,
Yeah,
cool. Let's move on now.
yeah, yeah. It was a little drawn out.
And her explanation of who she is now was so easily accepted. And as somebody who, as a society, wishes we would accept people much more for who they are and everything else, the scene was
Mhm.
just so nonchalant. Like she just made this huge revelation, and then 5 seconds later, it's oh, all right, cool, we got this. And like the development there, like yeah, Maria was mad that she was gone all these years. And then, oh, okay, I get it. Space stuff,
Yeah,
aliens,
right.
superpowers, awesome. Let's talk about your leather jacket now. It just wasn't. I've lost touch with friends over years, and we've had a longer discussion of it than what took place there. So
Right.
that just wasn't. I don't know. That just wasn't for me. But then they did make up for it with the scene with Carol and Maria on the jet together, um,
Yeah.
on this mission. I thought that was just a very special moment. I really liked it, and that's
Mhm.
the kind of that was that unspoken moment where they were bonded, and I appreciate that much more than just trying to pass it off through these weak conversations. And again, I think the writing is what
Yeah.
really was the weak part. um I know you mentioned Fury's eyes. I actually think the origin of his eye was more interesting than Carol's origin, just based on how they did it. They did not do
Yeah.
Carol any strong services here, and the next time we see her, it's in a quick scene where she's saving the world. It's
Yeah.
they've really developed this character very poorly thus far.
Mhm.
I will say the scene at the sink between Carol and Fury was great when they're doing the dishes.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a good way to kind of end things for me. I probably would have given this movie a 1 prior to the rewatch.
Wow.
I actually liked it less than Thor: The Dark World the first time I saw it, and I think more of that was based on me being so let down after being so excited about this movie.
Mhm.
But after the rewatch, I think there's a lot of little things that were very chemistry driven as opposed to dialogue driven, that I enjoyed a lot. And um, I love all the Coulson appearances. The nod from Coulson to Fury in the hallway, that was great.
Yeah.
They just click when they're together. So I'm a fan of those aspects and the little things. When you pick up on them, you forget about the weak writing and even at times terrible CGI, and you
Mhm.
just accept some of these moments for what they are. I'm a fan of some of it, so I actually gave it a 6, much
Oh,
higher
nice.
than any score I would have ever given it previously.
Yeah.
Simply just based on the fact that there were some things that I was able to enjoy out of it that I did not know were possible.
Mhm.
And because it took me rewatching this to come around to the fact that Brie Larson was not what was wrong with this movie. It was absolutely the writing crew. And given the
Yeah.
fact that they are now bringing in one of my daughter's favorite characters from Marvels, they better get a solid writing crew because I can't have my daughter be let down about Kamala. So
Right.
6.5 from you, 6 from me. It's not one that I'm willing to go up on just to say, hey, we got a better score. It was not a great
Yeah.
movie, but a lot more enjoyable than I initially thought. So, and I'm curious, knowing how much Gary is a fan of Miss Marvel, I'm wondering where he's going to stand on this too. Coming, coming guns a-blazing on us. So, the next film that we're arriving at is Ant-Man and the Wasp. And admittedly, I've watched it twice in 2 days now, for many reasons. But I'm really curious on because I know you watched that one today.
Mhm.
So when you gather your thoughts about Ant-Man and the Wasp, where do you start?
I don't know where to start. It's it's a jumbled mess of a movie. Um, the one thing that that just stuck in my mind the whole time was it doesn't feel like the original, and to an extent, I don't think the second movie should. But yeah, it just didn't have that. I felt like it was too comedic. Um, I guess they tried to bring some dark elements into it with Ghost's Ava's tragic backstory, but it was just it just felt too lighthearted. Um,
Speaking of
which
Ava, I
is
probably could have used a whole other hour of just Ava's character.
I yes, yes. Ghost was talk about underused. It was a really weak direction to to go in for her, and I'd rather much see her as an actual villain than a sympathetic one.
Mhm.
Um, but it was cool that um, Bill Foster was there to keep her on the moral straight and narrow. Um, but yeah, it was. I definitely liked Hope a lot more this time around.
Mhm.
She was very stale in the original Ant Man, and it was cool to see her and Scott actually working together a little bit more this time around, and yeah, it was nice. I'm not. I'd hate to say it because I know how big of a fan you are of him. I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy Woo. At least in this movie, I liked him a lot better in WandaVision.
I'm
But
staring right at my note right now that says I love Detective Will.
yeah, yeah, he just didn't do it for me this time around. And I think the biggest problem that I have with the movie is there's too much back and forth, too much of a cat and mouse game with the lab. Um, like I swear, Ghost gets the lab in three separate sections of the movie, and it just felt like it made me feel like the same reason why I don't like Edge of Tomorrow is because they do the time travel thing too much, and it's just overwhelming. And that's how I feel about this movie. There was just too much back and forth. If they had kept it to like one, you know, it'd be different if Ghost got it once, and it would just be more impactful because you could feel the gravity a little bit more instead of showing how easy it was to get it back from her. I know they needed to show, her struggle a little bit, and that was fine how they kind of played into that. Um, but yeah, totally underused and just missed the mark for me. Lewis was not funny to me in this movie. Um, he killed it in the first one. Oh my god, he was by far the best part of the movie.
I
And
think he became a crutch in this movie.
yes,
He was so
yes,
successful in the first one. I think that they used
yes,
that comedic timing and
very much so.
the escapism that you get through hearing his stories and how he operates. I think they use that as more of a crutch than an extra added bonus.
But it was cool because the other two were funnier than Luis in this one, which is weird. Um, and the if you don't mind me just jumping around topics, uh, the reunion scene with Hank and his wife was just, that was great. That got me pretty good in the feels. And I don't know what she was doing with her hands. And all of a sudden she's healing ghosts. I don't know. That whole section of the movie was just a blur because with everything going on, I just couldn't retain any of what they were talking about because, again, it's too long, too convoluted, and too lighthearted. Um, and that's really the main 3 points that I have to make about this movie. Paul Rudd was phenomenal as always, and I like the bit of comedy that his ex-wife and her new husband have to offer in this one, along with Cassie. And like I didn't hate it, but yeah, I'm about on par with it as I was when I first saw it. Before I couldn't even finish it, to be honest, but now that I've seen it all the way through and I have a recollection of it, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it like a 5.
Go. Oh, wow. So that actually, I think, is tied
Yes.
for your lowest score.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. I initially had a lot of issues with it when I saw it the first time around, to the point where it's like, I'm never watching it again. Because at first it wasn't even really a fun caper for me. It was just
Yeah.
it was like a buddy comedy gone wrong
Hmm.
in many ways for me. And I actually had to do some research in terms of, uh, what the hell she was doing with her hands. And it turns out at some point her powers evolve in the quantum realm, that kind of thing. All right,
Oh,
I'll accept that. But
why not?
with of all the things considered in this movie, I have to dig on that one.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the CGI was absolutely incredible. The aging of Michael Douglas, once again, was great.
Yeah.
Also, how cool is it that Paul Rudd will never require CGI because he hasn't aged since 1995? So props to him for making it easy on people.
Yeah.
That Scott and Cassie relationship, it got me the first time around, but it gets me even more the second time because
Hmm.
she's aware of who he is. She's aware of what's at stake.
Yeah.
The heart component of that, which is missing from so many of these movies, is just so awesome and compelling. And it's really low key in this movie where it's not in the forefront, but you kind of catch it. And
Yeah.
I really like the way that's done. Um, I would like Michael Pena and everything for the rest of the time if he's not the sole provider of all of the entertainment. So I think he probably should have been the highest paid actor for this movie because of how much they relied on him to make it good. Um,
True
I
though.
think that the montage of how he was spending his time, though, when I talk about the comedic elements, I think that was great. The montage of how he's spending his time in his house and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. And it's actually cool to see things link now. He's doing the magic tricks, and Detective Wu and WandaVision is still rocking magic tricks. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
a cool thing. The visuals for the quantum realm are absolutely stunning.
Always.
Just holy shit.
Yeah.
Well done. I think the CGI in this movie might be the best CGI we've got in any of the Marvel movies, to be honest. And a lot of that, I think, comes from the fight scenes too. Like that car chase where you see like a little Matchbox car going under a car, or
The
where
car,
we get,
the
what's
car
that?
chase. I was thinking to myself, yeah, the CGI is great. Like the shapes around Ghost as she was moving around, her phasing in and out. That looked great. But when it came to the choreography to the hand-to-hand combat, it was really lacking. I thought every time Evangeline Lilly or Paul Rudd like grew big from being like, I'm going to say bite size. Um,
Are they fucking
um,
pizza rolls?
yeah, it's like I don't know. They always have to do like this millisecond of like a stoic pose.
It's
This
almost like
sits.
when Mario gets the mushroom in Mario Brothers, and the girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in that sense, it wasn't quite fluid as I would have liked.
See, now you notice all that stuff, and I wish my eye was trained too, because I see it, I'm like, oh, go big now. Like I'm like a very petulant child
Yeah,
like that. I will say, unlike Captain Marvel, it only took 26 minutes to get to the point of this movie. So I know there was a lot of wasted dialogue throughout, but at least we knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm definitely down with that. And I like that they gave Hank Pym more lines in this movie, and he was more purposeful than in the first one. He was just kind of a
Yeah.
vengeful old bastard in the first one, and this one he actually serves much more of a purpose.
Well,
And
it works better with him growing closer to Hope,
oh yeah,
and yeah, because you know, um, her being so close, but them being so distant, as a relationship, can probably turn you into a cranky old bastard.
yeah,
Um,
and they almost condition us to accept that he may die,
yep,
going to save his wife,
yep.
and so he's made much more endearing in that respect. So
Mhm.
I definitely appreciate that element. Um, Hannah John Kamen as Ava is just so damn
Mm,
good. That what a
yes.
performance! And I honestly wish that they would have just used her. Yes, I love Walton Goggins. I'll take him in anything I watch. He's one of my favorite actors. Um, but he just seems so useless and purposeless.
Useless and vague,
Yeah,
and yeah.
it's like he could have been a henchman for Ava in some way or
Mhm.
another. That would have made sense. But it was a waste of time, a waste of talent, a waste of writing, and a waste of
Yeah.
screen time that Ava could have had. So, um, no thanks for me there. I think it's actually starting the trend of me thinking about how annoying it is having multiple villains in every movie because it takes away from the really good ones. We don't need three different angles taking place. We can just settle for one. And you know what? You can even cut 40
Yeah.
minutes off the runtime and we have a solid movie.
We could have been looking at fight scenes like we saw with the two visions at the end of WandaVision with Ghost, and again, just that clunky nature of the choreography. And yeah, it was cool that she phased in and out of some stuff, but um, I don't know. And the suit was cool. The suit was awesome, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, just wasted potential.
We need to start watching these movies together so that I could be with you and you could be like the Leonardo DiCaprio gif where he points at the TV. Like that's the moment. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Because I missed so much of the shit that you mentioned.
yeah,
It'd be fun. One thing I do enjoy is that they finally use Scott's brain and not just his humor in his suit. When he's actually fixing the formulas and all that stuff. To go
yeah.
back into the quantum realm when they actually show the science aspect of it, because I mean that's Ant-Man. I think that is really about time, to be honest, because he's really just been a lovable dumbass in every outing we've had of him so
Well,
far.
well, it's funny you say that because some of the critiques for this movie were just that. Like he became even more of um, an idiot with just some of the choices he makes. Um, and I have to kind of agree to an extent. Like I get that he's still human. I'll give him the same benefit for the doubt as I gave Star Lord in Infinity War. Um, I don't,
Got
I
it.
don't, I don't hate that as much as some people do. My God. But yeah, I do have to kind of agree with that point, though.
Yeah, it was that one moment, they threw that in and I was like, oh, it's about damn time because he's just been this lovable idiot the whole time. Um, and so I'll take that little nugget. But yes, he's been a dumbass. He really has. Um, as a whole, I'd say it's much more fun than I remember, but the villains are what I like the least. Um, and
Mhm.
I say that because I don't count Ghost as a villain, but I dislike the use of Ghost too.
Yeah,
Um, I gave it a 7. I watched it twice, and my reason being is because I knew how particular you were going to be about the fight scenes and the CGI, and somehow I still missed everything you're talking about. So, because there's just certain moments, where you'll get the giant salt shaker, you get this little Matchbox car, and I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
that's enough for me. It's like when a baby first fits the circle in the circle box, and the world is great, So it's that's just what it is for me. So I did thoroughly enjoy those aspects of it. I liked it a lot better than the first time I saw it.
Mhm.
I mean, this was on par with Thor: Dark World the first time I saw it. So, especially after I loved Ant-Man so much, and to get this was kind of a letdown, especially with what we've seen in between and things like that. So,
yeah.
I think a 6 is fair, and that actually leads us to our final movie of the night, which
Hmm. Yes.
Spider-Man: Far From Home. And last we spoke, you were less than enthusiastic about this one. So I'm curious to see if that changed since we spoke or if it's still a thumbs down.
Well, I will tell you right after I get your take. I want you to go first on this one.
Oh, you son of I can't say son of a bitch. Sandy's a saint. Um, love you, mom. So I think Happy and Aunt May together is one of my best combos that we've seen in the MCU. Um, I love John Favreau. I've always loved John Favreau, long before Marvel. Like
Always will.
Swingers days. I love John Favreau. Uh, and I love Marissa Tomei and their chemistry together. It's been forever since we've seen Marissa Tomei on screen before these Spider-Man movies. So those two together is just hilarious. But also, um, when you look at Tom Holland's reactions to a lot of it, like his facial expressions are just perfect for how annoyed he would be. And so I just think that the chemistry of them in those relationships is great. And I will take Happy Hogan in any scenario I can get. I think he can carry a movie on his own. I'd almost like to see his own TV show, to be honest. Of all the, like going back in time of all the times he had to pick up after Tony's mistakes and
Yeah.
Peter's mistakes, and kind of like one of those laugh track whodunit shows. I think it'd be a blast. I really do enjoy that. I think that they handled the blip explanation in a fun way that also
Oh, that was phenomenal.
yes. And it was fun. It reminded us that Spidey's a teenager, and there's all the dating components of it, but it showed us the teenage aspect without lingering on it too much, as some cringy movies tend to do.
Well, using it on a trip with Europe, you can explain it, but at the same time, you're like, okay, we got to move this along. It was able to propel the plot without getting too caught up into it like it did with Homecoming.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I think they greatly improved there. I think, giving Zendaya more speaking parts definitely helped with that. And her progression's amazing. She's just an incredible actress, too.
Yeah.
Big fan of hers. But the blip explanation, I was kind of wondering, before this movie came out, like, what are they going to do to explain this stuff? And people disappearing. And, after that scene in Ant-Man where he's just left in the quantum realm, like, oh, shit. So what are we going to do? And coming out with that school news report and just handling it that way and talking about the age of people, how my younger brother is not my bigger brother.
The cherry on top of that, and I still died laughing to this, is the Getty Images stock clip.
Yes, no, that was absolutely incredible. I think they handled it flawlessly.
Yeah.
And but just to think of the planning that had to go into the details for that, even like, just well done.
Yeah.
Again, I love the chemistry between Peter and Ned. It's going to be really interesting to see if Ned becomes Hobgoblin. I kind of hope he doesn't, to be quite honest, but it seems to be that that's where things are trending. I don't know if you've seen recent images of him, but dude's getting swole. So
yeah, against swole, but I don't see it happening.
In some respects, it needs to, especially with the multiverse coming. But in other respects, I'm hoping because we get a multiverse, he can just stay Ned. And
yeah,
I'd much more appreciate that. In this film, I was actually underwhelmed with the CGI, given that it was a mainly CGI-based film, especially with all the Mysterio stuff and Hydro Man, Molten Man, all that stuff. It didn't do it for me, to be honest. I was very underwhelmed with the CGI.
Mhm.
There were places where I noticed like things just didn't fit right. It's almost like when you're on first learning how to use like Microsoft Paint and you're just playing around with layers, or when you first mess around with Photoshop and you're like, this fits here. Like if you're taking the class in school and like, oh, my teacher won't notice this. It's like the layering was off on some of the stuff. And I don't know what it was for me. It bothered my eyes looking at a lot of it, to be honest. And I mentioned Hydro Man and Molten Man. And I really wish that we would have gotten their real selves instead of the elementals, the illusions. I know that Flash tells us who Hydro Man is.
Morris Bench, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you one thing that I did learn is I think it's in a clip before Ned and Betty get on the gondola. In the background, you can see a boat with the numbers and letters that correspond to Hydro Man's first appearance.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have just given us Hydro Man. I just talked about how I don't want multiple villains in these movies, but if you're going to give them to us, don't give them to us as an illusion. Give us the damn characters.
Yeah, which is why they should have just stuck with calling them elementals.
Yes. And, I think part of it was the marketing too, because they had to market the toys, the pops, and everything else. And if you just say elemental water, I don't think it would have sold much.
Yeah.
I think that one of my favorite lines was the movie was Flash when he's talking about Spider-Man. He says he inspires me to be a better man, followed up by him saying, "What's up, dickhead?
What's
I
up,
thought you
dickwad?
drowned."
Yeah.
That was, oh god, I love that part so much. Um, I also enjoy the fact that they introduced the concept of the multiverse in such a simple way,
Mhm.
um, with the way that they presented it, so that we can basically get the Spider-Man and multiverse without much background. Just boom, here we are.
Yeah.
Even the way they ended it with the Mysterio thing, like, do we know what universe that's coming from and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's really cool, and I I enjoy that. Um, Typically, I enjoy JB Smoove. He is a funny man. I thought it was overkill in this movie with him and Martin Starr.
Way. Yeah.
I
Way
could
too
have
overkill.
just done with one or the other, and I probably would have taken Martin Starr. JB's great comedic relief when you need it, but this movie definitely didn't need any more than we already had.
Yeah.
Um, he had some funny one-liners. Don't get me wrong. It's just I would have much rather have those scenes dedicated to MJ and Peter, or some actual real dialogue.
Yeah.
Um,
There's one line when they got to Venice, when they got to their hotel. I guess it was flooding a little bit, and he was like, I might not be getting this right, but he said something to the extent of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When you're in Venice, your socks get wet, and
yeah, I
stuff
mean,
like that. Like, he just took it too far with the witches thing.
oh yeah, yeah, no, it's very true. And there are moments. So, like, something that really bothered me, and when I talk about cutting out dialogue, is I like the Mysterio surprise angle. I like that he even shocked Nick Fury, that sort of stuff. But I was very
Yeah.
underwhelmed by him as a villain. Like, the psychological warfare was a great scene, but it only lasted for 6 minutes. And when you look at us
Yeah.
having him as a villain, I think the total runtime of that was 11 minutes out of a 2-hour film. So when that's your villain, you spend the whole time trying to get people to suck up to you. You've already got the glasses. How much time do we really have to waste in between? Really, why the flex when you already have the power? It just really bugged me. And so when I clocked how long we can get rid of this movie, I actually got 28 minutes that we could have gotten rid of in this movie.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have lost a single thing other than pointless shit. And I say that because it's getting a bit laborious to watch these movies every week when they're unnecessarily
Mhm.
long.
Yeah.
There's a lot to enjoy about them, but there's a lot of underwhelming stuff in there. I will say I enjoyed the different costumes in this much more the second time around than I did the first time around.
Different what?
The different costumes, different suits,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
just because I like Tom Holland's portrayal a little more this time around that I watched it than I did previously. His acting is much more spot on, and I think that I enjoy the fact that they focused on Peter's intelligence instead of just like a boyish charm and web slinging this time around too. He's actually, you see his
Mhm.
development on the screen. And I think that the writing was strong there. And my favorite part of the movie is actually when Peter says, "Wow, I love Led Zeppelin" when ACDC's on.
Yeah.
It just makes me laugh out loud every time. So initially going into this movie, I had it as a 4.5.
Really?
I was
Wow.
really, really underwhelmed with it, especially with Mysterio. Mysterio being one of the greatest villains that Spider-Man
Mhm.
has. Um, Jake Gyllenhaal being the actor he is, I mean, they had a lot of potential, just fell really flat for me. Not by any fault of Jake Gyllenhaal's either. Um, just how it was written, how it was portrayed. I ended up actually giving this movie a 6.5.
Oh,
Um, because I did like it a bit more. I think honestly, if they just ditched everybody and gave me Happy for an hour and a half, I would be fine and like it a lot more. But they didn't. We got stuck with pointless dialogue, much like people hear from me on Money, the conversations they hear me in. And so 6.5 for me. What about you, my friend?
okay. Well, there's a lot of points that have been mentioning to people on and off for ever since the movie came out, and I think the biggest one is this movie has just got me tired of seeing the newbie Spider-Man. Like, this movie just, I did enjoy the movie, but it just left me craving um, more towards the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Where it was a little bit more on the serious side. Um, I'm just getting a little too tired of all the comedy, especially this one. I think it was a little bit too heavy with it. Um, the scene, the idea of a school trip was fine. Um, their choice to do it in Europe was really clever, um, and it really kind of nailed home the point of like, what do you do when you don't have anyone to help you, and um, yeah, so Mysterio, I really love Mysterio. I give him credit for using Mysterio because it's hard to use him when everyone knows his shtick, even if it is just meant to only fool, Tom Holland and everyone in it. It's still hard to make it engaging, and I feel like he did that. And that sequence with all the illusions, that is hands down my favorite sequence in this whole MCU so far.
Their big battle.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a huge Mysterio stan. He's one of my favorite uh, Spider-Man villains of all time, and I was just gushing happy tears when I saw this. It was everything I wanted and more. But yeah, like you said, again, I was just left craving more of it. Um, the whole elemental thing yeah, it was, yeah, it could have been better. Wasn't my favorite. Um, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had my whole spiel ready, and now I just went out the window.
That's why you should have started instead of putting me on the spot.
No, I gotta put you on the spot at least once. Yeah, I'm gonna. It wasn't terrible, but it probably will be a while before I visit this again. I'll probably watch it one more time before No Way Home comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, god damn it, we should have gotten the trailer today. But yeah, it was. It just gradually gets a little less and less likable for me. So right now I'm gonna leave it at I'm gonna say a 7.5.
Got a nice 7.5 there for an average score of 6 on this one.
Yeah, I really like, I do truly love it. It is a really great story. But yeah, just again, same with Ant-Man and Wasp, is just too lighthearted. I'm just craving something serious.
Yeah, in one respect, I like the lighthearted stuff because we got away from that for so long in these movies.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, this series here, we just had 3 that were all really lighthearted, so
Yeah.
um, so it's interesting. Now, next week, we close out our current MCU films with Endgame
Mm-hmm.
and Infinity War. And
Yeah.
I've never watched these 2 consecutively, to be honest. I've always watched the movies in the exact order. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if that changes how I view these movies. I know I have my preconceived notions. I didn't like either one of them from the jump. So I will throw that out there now, and I hope to come back to the viewers next week with a different take on it. That's my hope for
And
this
if you
episode.
don't,
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to spend 5 hours this week watching these 2. So
yeah, right.
so my hope is that it's much more enjoyable than the first time around. Tim, my friend, this is a blast as we reach the conclusion of our journey. I know that we're throwing around some ideas for the future.
Feels like it just started.
I know. And Tim and I have been batting around some ideas to do after the MCU movies. But if you have any suggestions or things that you'd like to hear us talk about,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that too. Or things you want to hear us stop talking about. If you want me to shut up, tell me that too. Always make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It's always helpful. Don't text me. Don't message me afterwards. Tell us on here. Especially you if you're my students.
Smash that bell. Get notified when he uploads new videos.
My students love to come at me like, man, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, put it in the comments. Let's put this out there for the universe to decide.
Yes.
So, Tim, my man, it's been a long time coming. So happy to do this every week with you.
Yeah.
Any shout outs to end the segment?
As always, shout out to Chad over at Rhinos Comics and Collectibles in Rochester, New York. Shout out to the great Gary B. I'm counting down the days till he can be on our show. And just thank you to everyone who supports us every week and just puts, even if we're on as background noise, thank you for thinking of our mildly attractive voices and wanting us to be a part of your day.
I love it. My shout out for this week is to P for P New York, Pops for Patients New York. We are ramping up our drive for donations for the kids. They'll be for kids in the hospital, for kids who are battling terminal illness around the holidays, for kids who have next to nothing and could use a toy to make them smile. For kids in classrooms where the classrooms don't have a lot of stuff, or a reward system for kids who are trying to learn better behaviors. It's far reaching, and it's Tim and I are two of the three that run this, with Jeanette being the third. And any donations are helpful, whether it's a toy, a pop, coloring book, comic book, markers, crayons, anything that's been unused.
Literally anything unused.
We will find it a home with a child who will smile as a result. So that is my shout out. Comment on the YouTube page, message either of us, check out our Facebook page, our Instagram page. We are there and we want to help the kids, and we would love if you can help us help the kids, even if that just means sharing one of our posts to spread the word. That's more than enough. That's how we got on the news a couple of years ago. So let's push it. Let's keep it going. Tim, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being a part of that. Problem. And I can't wait to see your bearded face next week, my friend.
Yeah. In the meantime, keep an eye out for the Cool Points newsletter from our friend Greg Dilcox, which we will also be joining him back on the podcast in 2 weeks, when the week after Loki premieres. And also keep an eye out for Dan's Battle of the Ballads. Every week, a new year. Oh my God. God bless you for taking on such a journey.
Always many active pieces.
Yes.
Tim, my friend, good night to you. And to everybody at home, much love, and we'll see you next week.